Good day, everyone. My name is Ritzmond R. Estor, and I will be talking about discourse analysis. This is just an overview about discourse analysis, as it will take a lot of time if I will be discussing it all. First is the etymology. Discourse came from the Latin word discursus, which means running back and forth or running to and from. So there are two actions that is active or that is present is to go and to go back. What is discourse? To understand discourse, we can take a look at some expert ideas from the experts themselves. First is Widdowson. Widdowson in 1984 mentioned that discourse is a communicative process by means of interaction. When we understand interaction, it means that there are two or at least two participants, which means that someone will be the speaker or the writer, and the other one will be the hearer or the receiver or the reader. It means that there is some interactions. Next is from Gumpers in 1977. Certain communication routines characterized by special rules of speech and nonverbal behavior, and often distinguished by clearly recognized openings and closings. Because of someone who is always doing the same thing in communication, of course there will be a patterns, just like when you are writing a formal letter. There are some conventions that you have to follow, starting from the opening and then the content of the letter and then the closing. It's gonna be different when you write an informal letter, then it is up to you, or it is based on your patience on how you will write your informal letter. So there is a special rule there. Next is from Fairclough in 1992. This Fairclough identifies that in social theory and analysis, discourse has been used to refer different ways of structuring areas of knowledge and social practice. So different social practice will make someone to think about different discourse, and that must be used, or different discourse that must be used, and it create a structured knowledge inside the discourse user. Lastly is from Van Dijk in 1998. Discourse has role as tool of expressing ideologies, power dominance, inequality, and bias. So when you found someone say something, there is a possibility that they have meaning or intention beyond what is said. It's not always explicitly stated from the language or the word that they say, but there is a possibility that inside there is an intention to persuade or ask you to believe on something. So what are they, which is called discourse? So where can we find discourse? So we can say that discourse must be an interaction, so we can understand that there is a spoken discourse, and it includes in conversation, spoken announcements, debates, spoken invitation, and other things. On the other hand, we can also find written discourse on the form of newspaper content, magazines, announcement memos, advertisement, letters, leaflets, and other things. So we have understand discourse can be written and spoken, and discourse can convey many different ideas, including ideology and something else that, and there should be interaction, and there is also a pattern based on social interaction. Then what is discourse analysis? Just like earlier, let's hear from the experts. McCarthy in 1991 mentioned that the discourse analysis is the study of relationship between language and its context. Discourse analysis is not only concerned with the description and analysis of spoken interaction, but also written interaction. So here, we can find that the object of the analysis is not only about spoken or communication done orally, but there is also a written interaction which is in the form of text. And the language discussed is not only the language description itself, but there is also a connection between the language description and its context. Next is from G in 2011. Discourse analysis is the analysis of language in use. Better put, it is the study of language at use in the world. Not, not just to say things, but to do things. So it's not only about how it is formed, but it is about how it is used. And also when someone think about it or someone think about how it is used, they already have a background on why they choose this way or the shift of language to deliver to the hearer or to the reader. Next is Baker and Ellis. In 2011, discourse analysis studies more critically to examine issues relating to power, inequality, and ideology. Discourse analysis may contain spoken or written discourse that is also inferential meaning or the meaning beyond the language itself. So in conclusion, we can say that discourse analysis is the examination of text from various disciplines in order to give light to interpreting them within the context or of each discipline or combination of disciplines. Disciplines like pragmatics, semantics, syntax, and other disciplines to get better interpretations of the language descriptions. Regan back in 1999 mentioned that discourse analysis said that it is a bigger picture of language description. So here we understand discourse analysis is not only single discipline to discuss something, but it is actually or there is a possibility to combine different disciplines to get a bigger picture of a discourse. While every act of communication can count as an example of discourse, some scholars have broken discourse down into four primary types, and they are argument, narration, description, and exposition. What is argument? Argument is a form of communication meant to convince an audience that the writer or the speaker is correct. Argument is using evidence and reason to explain things or to give uh, things. Next is narration. Narration is narration. This form of communication tells a story, often with emotion and empathy involved. Next is description, a form of communication that relies on the five senses to help the audience visualize something. Next is exposition. Exposition is used to inform the audience of something with relatively neutral language. It's not meant to persuade or evoke emotion. Other literary scholars have included or have divided types of discourse into three categories, and they are expressive, poetic, and transactional. Expressive discourse comprises those acts of literary writing that is creative, yet non-fiction. This could include memoirs, letters, or online blogs. Next is poetic. Poetic discourse comprises creative, fictional writing. Poetic discourse includes novels, poems, and drama. These types of work often prioritize emotion, imagery, theme, and character development, as well as the use of literary devices like metaphor and symbolism. Last is transactional. Transactional discourse is used to propel something into action, such as advertising, motivating a customer to buy, or showing a customer how to use a product via a manual. This type of discourse generally does not rely so much on literary device. Now I'll give you some examples of discourses from the types of discourses. Let's take a look at the examples of different types of discourse from everyday life. The first example is from Mitch Hedberg. Mitch is an American comedian. I will just read this for you. When you buy a box of Ritz crackers, on the back of the box, They have all these suggestions as to what to put on the top of the Ritz. Try it with turkey and cheese, try it with peanut butter, but I like crackers, man. That's why I bought it, cause I like crackers. I don't see a suggestion to put a Ritz on top of a Ritz. I didn't buy them because they're little edible plates. You've got no faith in the product itself. Jokes like this are example of discourse. Like other all communication or like all other communication, here the comedian is mainly using narration to tell the funny idea. Next is this from Martin Luther King Jr. We all know this, the I Have a Dream speech of Martin Luther King. I will just read it for you. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which of every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men and as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note. Insofar as her citizens of color are concerned, instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. In this speech, Martin Luther King Jr. blended different types of discourse, such as narration and argument. The significance of discourse in literature. Discourse of any type is one of the most important elements of human behavior and information. Countless studies have been done on the way the brain shapes thoughts into words, and indeed, the way that communication shapes the brain. Many studies have specifically targeted the way that speakers of many different languages understand concepts differently. Thus, the creation and dispersion of discourse is the utmost importance to the perpetuation of the human race. Literature is one of the primary ways of maintaining a record of discourse and creating new ways of understanding the world. By reading text from other cultures and other time periods, we are better able to understand the way in which the authors of those texts thought. Indeed, reading literature from our own ostensible cultures can better highlight the ways in which we think and interact. Since each piece of literature ever created is an example of discourse, our understanding of discourse is vital to our understanding of literature. Here are the examples of discourse in literature. I'm just gonna play this for you guys.
Wherefore was that cry?
The Queen, my lord, is dead.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays of lighted fools away to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
In this beautiful and haunting soliloquy from William Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth, the character of Macbeth is lamenting the death of his wife, Lady Macbeth. Shakespeare uses many different literary devices in this poetic discourse example, such as repetition in tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, as well as imagery and metaphor. The function of this passage is primarily to make the audience feel strong emotion, even catharsis, as Macbeth thinks about what could have been. Next example is Common Sense from Thomas Paine. I'll just read this for you guys. The sun never shined on a cause of greater worth. 'Tis not the fair of a city, a county, a province, or a kingdom, but a continent, of at least 1/8 part of the habitable globe. 'Tis not the concern of a day, a year, or an age. Posterity are virtually involved in the contest, and will be more or less affected, even to the end of time, by the proceedings now. Now is the seed time of continental union, faith and honor. The least fracture now will be like a name engraved with the point of pin on the tender rind of a young oak. The wound would enlarge with the tree, and posterity read in it full-grown characters. Thomas Paine's Common Sense is an excellent example of transactional discourse. In his essay, Paine lays out the reasons that the American colonies should rebel against Great Britain. Paine relies mostly on the discourse of argument, but also calls on the emotions of his readers in this passage by asking them to think of how much territory is at stake. And Paine uses literary devices such as imagery and simile, as well as in invoking the image of the colonies as a young oak. Last example is from the Diary of Anne Frank by Anne Frank. In the meantime, things are getting more and more wonderful here. I think, Kitty, that true love may be developing in the annex. All those jokes about marrying Peter, if we stayed here long enough, weren't so silly after all. Not that I'm thinking of marrying him, mind you. I don't even know what he'll be like when he grows up, or if we'll even love each other enough to get married. Anne Frank's diary is one of the most famous examples of expressive discourse. Anne Frank was in hiding during World War II for many years in an annex in Amsterdam, and spent her time recording her emotions and thoughts in her diary, which she named Kitty. We can see that the entries are non-fiction, that is, she truly lived them, but they are creative and expressive all the same. That's it. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned something about discourse analysis and discourse. And I'll give the floor now to the next reporter. Thank you, guys, and God bless and stay safe.